All right, well, thank you all for coming, and I'm especially pleased and honored to be joined here by some people you'll meet soon. Paige Kloshik-Parks, the Executive Director of Rhode Island Kids Count, Michelle Wolstenholme, the Chief Executive Officer and Head Start Director of Child Inc., who are hosting us here today, and also a member of the Rhode Island Head Start Association. Frank Flynn from the Rhode Island Federation of Teachers and Health Professionals, Val Lawson, the President of NEA Rhode Island, Burnell Richardson, a parent who we'll be hearing from soon, and a number of members of the Rhode Island Head Start Association directors. So thank you all for coming. Every child deserves access to great education. No matter their age, their zip code, every child deserves a great education. And we are here today because the Republican leadership of the House of Representatives recently released their proposed budget, which includes a 28% cut to the federal education budget. You heard that right. This is not a rumor. This is not gossip. They have come out with a budget proposal that would cut the federal education budget by 28%. $64 billion of cuts. So we are here today to raise our voices to say that this is unacceptable, that we will not allow it, that it would do harm to Rhode Island children, and we are going to push back against these proposed cuts. A 28% cut like the one that House Republicans have proposed would cut funding for programs like Head Start, Early Head Start, Title I. It would set the wrong priorities and would leave too many children behind. These cuts would mean 200 fewer Head Start spots for children in Rhode Island. 200 fewer Rhode Island children who would have access to preschool under Head Start. It would mean up to 800 fewer teachers in the state of Rhode Island at a time when we already have significant teacher shortages. Let me explain that again. By cutting Title I funding, which funds particularly teaching positions in schools in lower income districts, this proposed budget that House Republicans have come up with would eliminate 800 spots for teachers under Title I at a time when we already have too few public school teachers in Rhode Island. In addition to these cuts for Head Start and Title I, the budget that has been proposed would cut funding for English language education, for federal work-study programs, for youth and adult job training programs, for wraparound services for students with significant needs, and we have to say no. It's unnecessary, and if budgets are a statement of priorities, we need to send a message that children should be a priority. I have worked throughout my time in government with partners in education and in government to try to increase resources for education, which is what we ought to be doing. In Congress, I'm pushing for a $17.5 billion increase of funding for Head Start as opposed to a cut. I'm proud to be a member of the Congressional Pre-K Caucus and Child Care Caucus, co-sponsor of the Child Care for Working Families Act, which would expand Head Start programs to ensure that all families have access to early childhood education. I co-sponsor the Educators Act, which would invest $1 billion developing strategies to meet educator workforce needs and build a talent pipeline so that we can address teacher shortages before they occur. The RAISE Act, which would increase tax credits for teachers to make it easier for them to afford school supplies, and the Mental Health of Educators and Staff Act, which funds grants and other activities to support positive mental health and behavioral health among educational and professional staff and other school staff. But the most immediate issue that we face is these proposed cuts. And this is a very real threat. The budget draft has already been released. The House leadership has put it out there. They say they're going to put it up for a vote when we return to the House in September, and we need to put our foot down and say no. It would be a disaster for Rhode Island children, it would be a disaster for parents, for educators, and for anyone who believes in a society where every child deserves a shot to get ahead. So with that, I want to introduce Michelle, who is our host here at Child Inc., Chief Executive Officer and also a member of the Head Start Association, to talk a little bit about why Head Start programs are so important in Rhode Island. And thank you for having us here.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome. I am Michelle Wolstenholme from Child Inc., and I am actually a former Head Start parent, for those of you that don't know. Head Start, it began in 1965 as an 8-week demonstration project for a group of preschool children in the summer before their kindergarten year. Certainly much has changed in the past 5.5 decades. Today, Head Start serves more than 1 million children annually from pre-birth to age 5 before they go off to kindergarten. Head Start programs, over 3,000 in this country, have close to 250,000 teachers and staff in their employment. Head Start programs provide free, high-quality early education and care programs, along with comprehensive health and family support services to the parents and children for which we receive services. Today, Head Start programs are experiencing workforce shortage crisis. Every Head Start program in the country, including Child Inc., has a workforce shortage. We are unable to provide the high-quality early learning programs and supports that the federal government pays us to provide. If there are additional cuts, we will be devastated. The Head Start programs may not be able to survive, and certainly the most vulnerable and the youngest children in this country are going to lose out. Head Start works. The research for decades demonstrates that Head Start works. Children birth to 5 obtain wonderful school readiness outcomes before they leave us to go to kindergarten. Graduating children from kindergarten, from Head Start, they succeed in kindergarten, they succeed in their future educational attainment, and they succeed in life in the workforce as adults. Head Start needs continued funding. We do not need cuts. We need increased funding to fund our workforce. Without our ability for pay parity to our pre-K to 12 cohorts in the public school systems, we will be unable to survive. We need to be able to provide pay parity so that we can hire and retain the same highly qualified, skilled, and dedicated professionals to work in the Head Start programs just as in the pre-K to 12 public school system. We implore the rest of the legislative body to support Head Start programs, not to provide cuts to the Head Start program. In January, I'm not sure if Representative Magaziner remembers this, but the group of Head Start program leaders from around the country were in Washington, D.C., and a delegate of the Rhode Island Head Start Association had the opportunity to visit Representative Magaziner. We were actually your first official guest welcome into your office. Clearly we made a lasting impression. We're very thankful for the support that you offer to the Head Start programs, not just in Rhode Island, but around the country, and we're thanking you in advance for your future advocacy efforts on our behalf. Please help us to ensure that Head Start funds continue and are increased so we can do the wonderful work with our most youngest and our most vulnerable children in this country. Thank you. I would like to introduce Paige Cautious Parks, the Executive Director of Rhode Island Kids Count. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And hello and good morning, everyone. I am Paige Cautious Parks, Executive Director of Rhode Island Kids Count. Thank you for attending today's press conference. I also want to thank Representative Magaziner for all of his work in the U.S. House of Representatives on children and family issues. He has been working hard for Rhode Islanders and is active on many important issues, including child care, Head Start, early Head Start, and K-12 education. Thank you, Representative Magaziner, for organizing this event to draw attention to the critical importance of federal funding for Head Start and early Head Start, as well as the Federal Child Care Development Block Grants and the Preschool Development Grants birth through 5. I also want to thank Michelle Wolfton Home and Child Inc. for hosting the press conference today. As you heard, Michelle is the CEO of Child Inc. She's also a Head Start parent, and what she didn't mention, that she's been doing this work with families for 28 years. So she is an expert, and thank you for your service to our children and families. She is a strong advocate for children and families and early educators in Rhode Island, along with her associates and great colleagues in the Rhode Island Head Start Association. So Rhode Island Kids Count and Rhode Island Head Start Association work closely together with several other organizations that lead the Right from the Start campaign. So Right from the Start, as many of you know, is a state and legislative budget campaign that advocates for policy changes that will help to ensure that all children and their families get off to the right start, regardless of their race, ethnicity, immigration status, family structure, family income, or zip code. Members of the Right from the Start Steering Committee include Beautiful Beginnings, the Economic Progress Institute, the Latino Policy Institute, Parents Leading for Educational Equity, Rhode Island Association for the Education of Young Children, Rhode Island Association for Infant Mental Health, Rhode Island Head Start Association, and of course, Rhode Island Kids Count. For generations, children, families, and educators in Rhode Island have relied on federal funding for Head Start and early Head Start programs to provide high-quality early learning experiences for our most vulnerable children from infancy through kindergarten entry. These programs also support families with wraparound services and reliable childcare that allow parents to work. It is absolutely alarming that the U.S. House of Representatives Appropriations Committee is proposing to drastically cut funding for Head Start and early Head Start, which would lengthen the waiting list and exacerbate the early educator staffing crisis, which we have heard about time and time again. We cannot exacerbate these challenges. We need to make things better, not worse. Some members are also proposing to eliminate all federal funding for the Preschool Development Grant, which Rhode Island is currently using to help increase teacher compensation to address the early educator staffing crisis. We thank Representative Magaziner for fighting for Head Start and early Head Start and other federal funding to help the youngest children in Rhode Island. Head Start and early Head Start are part of our state and nation's early education infrastructure, and Congress needs to fully fund these proven programs, along with the Child Care Development Block Grant and the Preschool Development Grants, birth through 5 state grants. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. So we've talked a bit about the impact on Head Start and early childhood education from these proposed cuts, but K through 12 education would be unfortunately on the chopping block as well. And the cuts to Title I that have been proposed by the Republican leadership in the House could cost Rhode Island up to 800 teacher spots at a time when we're already facing severe shortages. 131 teaching vacancies in Providence, 17 in Cranston. That's what we're facing already before factoring in the potential for 800 fewer slots. So to speak for Rhode Island's teachers, I'd like to introduce the leaders of the 2 largest teachers unions in the state. First, from the Rhode Island Federation of Teachers and Health Professionals, Frank Flynn.
Thank you, Representative Magaziner, for your advocacy on this very important issue, and welcome everyone here today. Since 1965, as you've heard, almost 60 years, Title I has been the great equalizer in our public schools, providing programs and supports to thousands of students every year. There's irrefutable evidence that early intervention programs where students have access to high-quality early learning opportunities are the keys to success. And I think it's important at this time we recognize Paige's organization for the great work they've done. Kids Count, particularly for many years under Elizabeth Burke Bryant's leadership, they've certainly been the leader in this state to creating those opportunities. And I'm sure Paige is going to pick up the mantle and run with it just as well as Elizabeth did for those many years. So Rhode Island, as we know, has been a leader in creating opportunities, expanded opportunities in early childhood high-quality early childhood programs, particularly pre-K programs. The funds provided by Title I have been instrumental in leveling the playing field for so many of our students in low-income households. Often those are the communities that are most marginalized. I can't think of another federal program that had done more to mitigate the impact of poverty on our children than Title I. In addition to supporting our children, Title I provides a number of great opportunities for parents to get them involved in the programs, for students to help their children reach their maximum potential. Preschool and other early childhood programs also allow the parents to enter the workforce, where they could, which certainly helps parents, particularly at this time in this economy, become more successful and provide better opportunities for their children. As a 34-year special education teacher in Rhode Island, I can assure you that spending on high-quality preschool and early intervention programs will significantly reduce the need for future high-cost special education services in our schools, which would certainly benefit not only the students, but the school districts to be able to provide other opportunities for students in classrooms. So we all know that we're still recovering from a global pandemic. It's disrupted the lives of all of our students as well as our families. It's particularly hard on our urban communities, which really need additional revenues. It's totally irresponsible and unconscionable for Congress to propose reducing funding at this time, which for these programs to provide the resources our students need to have access to programs and supports which are essential to their success. This is a time when we should be ramping up services, not cutting them, as you just heard. The Republicans' proposed cuts to Title I would force districts, which are already woefully underfunded, to eliminate programs and staff, which would deny our students those opportunities. We should be creating more jobs, not creating schemes to eliminate jobs. We need additional staff in all of our schools. We need additional staff in our preschool programs, and we need to be fighting as hard as we can. So I really appreciate Congressman Magaziner's leadership on this. In fighting against these cuts, we need to rally the rest of our congressional delegation, which I'm sure will be a very easy lift. And I want to assure you, Representative, that the Rhode Island Federation of Teachers will be standing side by side with you to do whatever we can with this in this fight. So thank you very much for this opportunity, and thank all of the other groups and passionate advocates for this very worthy cause. And at this time, it's my pleasure to introduce my friend and colleague, NEA President, Senator Val Lawson.
Thank you, Frank. Good morning, everyone. I'm proud to stand here today with Congressman Magaziner and so many other advocates for Head Start. It's an honor to be here as the president of the National Education Association, Rhode Island, and standing with so many strong supporters of this vital program and of public education. As we've heard today, Head Start makes an incredible difference for children's families and communities. It really does change the course of young lives. Head Start, Early Head Start provides programs that set up nurturing environments where children can develop, thrive, and set them up for success throughout their school and life journey. It has the ability to engage families, provide invaluable support, guidances, and resources for many of the most vulnerable members of our community. For all of these reasons and those mentioned by the previous speakers, it's imperative we support Head Start and that we stand up against cuts to its funding and every other aspect of funding like Title I. I'm proud to be part of this system that believes in strengthening education and that it's a top priority. And as a member of the Senate, where I represent East Providence, I'd like to thank some of my colleagues, President Ruggiero, Leader Pearson, Chairman De Palma, for their support for these early learning programs, including the funding to preserve Head Start, Early Head Start in this year's budget. I'd also like to recognize the work of President Gallo, Chairwoman Cano, Chairwoman DeMario for their ongoing support to strengthen Rhode Island's early childhood system. And I want to thank all of you here today and my many partners in government and state and the federal levels who share education as a priority. As an educator and the president of the National Education Association Rhode Island, I'd like to highlight that just as we value the many benefits of early education, we must also value the role of educators. Educators and support professionals deserve our support because they do incredibly important work for our communities. In every community across Rhode Island, as we begin the school year, educators and parents are partnering to solve real challenges facing our students in schools so all students can grow into their full brilliance. And the earlier we start at programs like this, the better we are. In Rhode Island, we are fortunate to have leaders who truly value early education and early educators. Thank you, Representative Magaziner. I hope our state's example helps inspire others at the federal level to fight for this critical support of Head Start programs and make education a continuing priority. Thank you for the invitation here today, and at this time I'd like to introduce Brunelle Richardson, a parent of a Head Start student.
Thank you, Senator. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak to you here today and to share my story with you. The crucial need for restored funding for the early Head Start and Head Start programs are very important to myself and my family. As you know, I am a nurse and I work for on a women's unit at Ken, New England. I stand before you because every child in Rhode Island deserves access to an affordable, high-quality education, and early Head Start and Head Start programs provide the foundation for a strong educational path. My family has personally experienced the transformative impact of these programs. Let me take you back a few years. My children were 1, 2, and 5 respectively. My husband and I were both looking for careers, and we were setting ourselves up for career paths that would be able to take our family to the next level. However, as you know, childcare was always a problem. It still continues to be a problem. The Early Head Start program was a lifesaver for us, however. It allowed us a safe place for our children to have reliable, high quality, and free learning experiences during their most formative years. And while our children were being cared for, my husband and I were able to pursue fulfilling careers. My husband was able to participate in the DADS program that was funded from Head Start. That was one of the programs that Head Start helps with families. And through those programs, he was able to gain career skills and also emotional skills to help support our families. Through this program, he was also given the opportunity to learn welding, and now he works for a prominent company in Rhode Island, welding, okay? Furthermore, Early Head Start was instrumental in my journey through nursing school. It provided the support I needed to focus on my studies and earn my degree, bringing me to where I am today, a proud nurse making a difference in the life of others. When my son was older, we found ourselves suddenly ineligible for the support for my youngest son. I was on my final year of nursing school and about to complete my degree, and the safety net which had allowed me the opportunity to go to school in the first place was being taken away. The uncertainty affected my school schedule and put my younger son, at a disadvantage for his education. Despite these hurdles, we persevered, driven by the knowledge that Early Head Start had given us the bedrock of our family's success and progress. It facilitated my education and empowered us to access better job opportunities and provide for our family. However, the exorbitant cost of childcare became a new challenge. My monthly paychecks was swallowed up in childcare and continues to be swallowed up in childcare, leaving me with a stark choice: work to support my family, or work to pay for childcare. It's a plight many families face here today in Rhode Island, juggling work and childcare, wrestling with exorbitant prices that chip away at our earnings. As a nurse, I understand the impact my role, a role that demands commitment, dedication, and care for others, and yet the economic burden of childcare remains a harsh reality, making it hard to strike that balance. My voice is not just mine. It's a voice for the countless families grappling with these challenges. It's a voice for the Black and brown women whose stories go often unheard. But I'm here to say that we must ensure that programs like Early Head Start and Head Start are fully funded, so families like mine do not have to choose between the livelihood and quality care for our children. It's about creating opportunities for everyone, about enabling families to thrive and succeed. My dedication to nursing is fueled by my desire to make a positive impact on the life of women I serve, especially those within the Black and brown communities. Being a voice for those who often go unheard is a responsibility that I take very seriously. As I stand here, I invite you to consider my family story, which is like that of so many other Rhode Islanders. Early childhood education is not just about numbers. It's about building a brighter future for our children, supporting families, and ultimately strengthening our communities. In closing, I urge you, our legislators, to ensure full funding for Early Head Start and Head Start programs. Let's ensure that our families like mine, can access these vital programs that can pave a way to success, dreams fulfilled, and a future that is most prosperous and equitable. Thank you.
Thank you very much once again to everyone for speaking, and particularly to Brunel for sharing her story. Okay, questions if there are any. We've got the Steves here, we've got Adam, Deacon.
Oh, good. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you all again for coming out, and I'll just say again, we'll keep everyone updated. We head back to session on September 12th. We expect that we will be voting on appropriations bills this fall, and I am going to continue, and my Democratic colleagues are going to continue to shine a light on what these proposed cuts would mean for children and for families. We're not going to stand for it. We're not going to let it happen. We're going to fight back because it's what our children deserve. Yes?
I do have a question. This is not the only program that is proposed for cuts, am I right?
That's right. So the appropriations bills, the way this works, the federal government is funded with 12 separate appropriations bills. And across the 12, the Republican leadership in the House is proposing a 22% cut across all federal spending. So that impacts seniors, that impacts veterans, that impacts the military. But the 28% cut to education that they're proposing is even disproportionate to the level of other cuts that they're proposing in other areas of government. It's especially severe and especially cruel.
Is that because they have a thing for the Department of Education?
I think it's, like they say, if budgets are a statement of priorities, then the House Republican leadership has shown that education for children is not one of their priorities. But it is the priority of the American people, and that's why we're fighting back.
Why do you suppose?
I think they're out of touch. The political reality is that the 20 or 30 most extreme House Republicans are setting the agenda. In exchange for voting for Kevin McCarthy to be Speaker, they essentially demanded full control over the agenda, and he gave it to them. So the agenda that they're pushing, I don't think represents what most Republicans in the House want, and it certainly doesn't represent what most Americans and most voters want. It's the 20 or 30 furthest to the extreme who are setting the agenda, who are writing the bills, and they're also reneging on a deal that they negotiated with President Biden. During the debt ceiling crisis back in the spring, in order to avoid a default on the debt, President Biden negotiated in good faith with the Republicans in the House And they agreed on spending levels for all of those appropriations bills. And within days of making that agreement, the extreme Republicans of the House said, no, we're reneging and we want more extreme cuts. And so, it's totally out of touch with what people want. It's wrong, it's bad for kids, and that's why we're fighting back.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all once again. I appreciate it.